everyone, it's Marianne, and today I'll be sharing with you my best plant propagations. Thank you so much for joining me today, and the reason I am sharing my best plant propagations today is not to brag about how great of a plant parent I am, but quite the opposite. This video is to mostly reassure myself that I am still a decent plant parent, that I have successes in my plants, particularly with propagations, because as you might have heard recently, because I wouldn't shut up about it, and I promised I would shut up about it someday soon, but that day is not today, is that I recently killed my MONSTERA ALBO. By revisiting my greatest hits when it comes to plant propagations, maybe that would help me move on and finally get through my grieving process with the MONSTERA ALBO and just focus on the plants that I currently have. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Marianne. Welcome to My Oasis Life, where I take you along my houseplant journey, as well as share with you lifestyle content that is focused on sustainability, productivity, wellness, and also share with you some of my personal and travel vlogs here and then. And right now I do have a Hawaii vlog going on, and I will share the playlist up here and also down in the description if you haven't checked it out. So if you like this type of content, please do consider subscribing before the end of this video, and also like and give me a comment down in the description to let me know your feedback. I would love to hear from you. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So in front of me, I have about 6 plants that I think are my greatest hits when it comes to propagating plants. And the rules for this video is I picked out plants that are already established plants. They did start out as propagations, either from a single cutting or something similar, but they are now established plants and have been that way for quite some time. So I'm not picking out any plants that are still kind of in the propagation stage or just left the propagation stage, which you might have seen in my previous 2 houseplant videos, which you haven't seen yet. I'll also link it down in the description, so do check it out. Okay, so the very first one is my SYNGONIUM ALBO. So if you remembered a few months back, I have one SYNGONIUM plant that has been trailing really high, but it was getting very lanky, so I decided to chop it all down, basically from the base, and made single leaf cuttings of all the leaves that it already had on the vine. And this has been in my greenhouse cabinet since, and this is what it looks now. So actually last night I did prune off some of the dead leaves that it has, and the leaves are kind of like facing in one direction because it is trying to face the direction of the grow lights in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet. But so far this one is doing really well and has been an established plant from the propagation stage, I'd say for almost 6 months now, if it hasn't already hit the 6-month mark. And this actually did pretty well in the self-watering planter. And if you know, I did have issues with my ALBO in a self-watering planter, which is what killed it. But this one is doing pretty okay. But as you can see, the roots have actually grown down into the water reservoir, and so far it's doing well. So I think it's going to be staying in the self-watering planter for now, and as it grows eventually, this might need staking or trellising again, or I might separate some of the plants inside the spot, because there's about 10 plants in here, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, about 10 plants in here that I could probably separate for giveaways or for plant trades. So I might do that come growing season, but not right now. And when this finally needs trellising, I'll probably share that video as well, because I am also thinking of doing a trellising video in the upcoming future, especially for the plants that I really want to mature, so do watch out for that. But yes, so one of my greatest hits when it comes to plant propagation, my SYNGONIUM ALBO. And the next one is probably the plant that I always get DMs up to now asking for updates when it comes to the propagation, which is my HOYA KERRII. So aside from my POTHOS video, my HOYA KERRII propagation video is probably my most popular video on my YouTube channel. And I still get DMs to this day, like I mentioned, people asking for updates with those propagations. The updates on those propagations are listed in the description and also pinned in the comments and also in the cards. So if you happen to watch this video, you want the updates, just check the comments, the description, the cards, link in the video, and you will see the updates to that. But just to update you here, those HOYA KERRII propagations from my regular HOYA KERRII, all the propagations have been sold. The mother plant is doing okay, and this one is actually the HOYA KERRII reverse variegata. So when I purchased this last year. I purchased this essentially as a cutting, and it wasn't my import order, it was the nursery's import order, and literally they were just unboxing the HOYA KERRII that they got from their Thailand shipment, and I got first dibs on their HOYA KERRII. So because I am kind of friends with the owner, so he let me pick out from the HOYA KERRII that they were still rehabbing, and I got it on a discount since it was just rehabbing and they haven't had potted up yet. So I was able to get this HOYA KERRII reverse variegata. But as you can see, the variegation is pronounced in this leaf, not so much in the other leaves. The variegation is much more pronounced when the leaves are still juvenile, like when they just first came out. But as they mature and harden, they kind of lose the variegation in my reverse variegata. I don't know if that has happened to your plant or this is just kind of like the genes my reverse variegata has. Do let me know down in the comments. But either way, I liked it, and this is a very successful propagation of my HOYA KERRII as well. The only bad propagation experience that I have with the HOYA KERRII is with the ALBO marginata, which is also from an import order that I did myself from Thailand. But I think I just got an unhealthy plant to begin with, plus the mistakes that I made when trying to rehab that plant. So there's also another propagation video that I'm thinking of doing this month, is to create a propagation video of the mistakes that I made when propagating plants. So it's kind of like lessons learned, so watch out for that video as well. But yeah, so this is the HOYA KERRII, and this one I propagated in sphagnum moss, and once it kind of established its root system, I transferred it into soil into this pot, and it has been in this pot since for almost a year now. And usually for most of my HOYAs, they don't need or require a lot of frequent repotting, so this one's not going to get repotted as well. It's just going to stay in here as long as it grows for this year, at least, to be honest. And it has a new growth coming out, and as you can see, I cut off the top. I think the top part of that, I think I just threw away because it was just a very leggy growth, and I don't like my HOYA KERRII having like leggy growth. I kind of want it compact like this, so anytime it shoots out a very long stem, I cut it off. I have it also in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet underneath, very close to the grow light, so hopefully it wouldn't feel the need to have very leggy stem before it produces those leaves. And the third plant is one of my favorite house plants, and now that Valentine's Day is coming up, by the time I upload this video, it's kind of like the HOYA KERRII, it's very timely to talk about this plant, which is the variegated string of hearts. So I was gifted a cutting of this from one of my subscribers, Elizabeth. Thank you if you're still watching my channel. And it literally started with probably a cutting of this size, and now it is this much. And string of hearts, especially the regular one, is naturally very easy to propagate, but honestly I had an easier time propagating and taking care of this variegated version than I do with the regular string of hearts, which I already had a couple of issues that always happens during winter season. But this season I kind of like avoided it a little bit because I kept mine in the IKEA greenhouse cabinet, but I also have been suffering like yellowing and leaf loss with my regular string of hearts. But with this one, not so much. The only thing with this, it is a very slow grower, but once I started having this and propagating it, it didn't really give me any issues at all when it comes to yellowing or anything or like that. So the only issue with this, it is a slow grower, but other than that, no problems at all with propagating this until it grew into this like 4-inch pot, and it's now starting to trail, and I'm really excited about that. For successful plant propagation number 4, it's another Syngonium, which is my Syngonium CHIAPENSE. So I got a cutting of the Syngonium CHIAPENSE, a single leaf cutting that was rooted when I purchased it last summer from the plant here in Chicago. But by the time I brought it back to Maryland, I lost the root system because I didn't pack it quite well, so it pretty much started from scratch. So I was expecting that I would be practically propagating this from node, but honestly that is not what happened. And I kind of cut off the original leaf now that it has grown 4 new leaves, but that leaf kind of remained, and while it was yellowing, the yellowing did not continue. and it grew roots, and it's now this plant. And that's the great thing about Syngonium plants, whether you get a rare Syngonium or a much more common Syngonium that you can easily in big box stores, the care and propagation of that plant is the same regardless of the variety. They're very easy to care for and very easy to propagate, and this one definitely proves that. And as you can see right here, it has roots already coming out of the drainage, so this one is due for repotting sometime soon. And I've also have given it a plank to climb on, but it's not properly attached to it, so I need to secure it to the plank so it starts attaching to it as well. So what I love about the Syngonium CHIAPENSE as well is, if you might not know it about me, I'm not really much of a philodendron person, but this one gives like the philodendron vibes without having it be a philodendron, and honestly a lot more affordable and a lot easier to take care of than most philodendron plants. So the Syngonium CHIAPENSE, like a lot of Syngonium plants, is probably one of the very few plants that I would be okay with buying as a single leaf cutting, and I would have a very high confidence level that it would successfully propagate. Of course, you need to like take steps and precautions like with any other plant with propagating, but more often than not, even if you're just a beginner, you'll have high success in propagating a Syngonium plant like a Syngonium CHIAPENSE, even if you just got it as a single leaf cutting. So highly recommend. The second to the last one that I'll mention, my HOYA compacta, and I found this at the clearance section in one of those Live Trends test tube plants, and it had like a cutting of this, like probably this big, and it had its root system in a botanical sponge. So when I got this, I was kind of actually shocked that it was growing in a botanical sponge, but I took it out of that, and I think I started propagating it in sphagnum moss, I believe, but I never really had issues with the HOYA compacta variegata, which is why when I killed my most recent purchases of Hoyas, like the HOYA Kentiana and even the HOYA compacta variegata, which I still have a small cutting of, but I pretty much lost the entire plant. I was expecting the propagation of those Hoyas would be the same as this one, but they weren't. So for me, a HOYA compacta is a very resilient HOYA, even if you get a small cutting of it. Although with this one, you can say for like about 2, maybe 3 years now, it's only had been this much. Hoyas are notoriously slow growers, but for me, I think from where it started, I think this is pretty good. And haven't really technically propagated this since. What I have probably done in the past is once it started to grow long, I would cut and then stick it back into the soil, which is how I ended up with these 2 other strands of the HOYA compacta, but that's pretty much it. So this is one of those Hoyas. If you're just starting to get into the Hoyas, I would definitely recommend the HOYA compacta. And so last and certainly not the least is of course my Thai constellation monsteras. So I'm not going to talk much about this plant since I did a whole video documenting its propagation up to a year later, so you can watch that. I'll link it up here and also down in the description. But just to give you a quick update, it has finally shot out a growth after I propagated it last October, I believe. And as I've mentioned in those videos, I am going to do a ThaiCon giveaway with the new growth. And as you can see, this is the new growth. And hopefully by April, I'll be able to cut it and propagate it for the giveaway. And I'm also hoping it would grow a bit more by then, because someone in my area also reached out to me wanting to do a plant trade with a cutting of my Thai constellation monstera, and I'm hoping to be able to do it from this plant, but we will see. But yeah, so I'm really excited about the future of this Thai constellation monstera. I know I have another one here that I got from Costa Farms, but I still love the one that I had originally, because this one I did labor and did try to propagate it, saved it from root rot, which also the reason why I got too cocky with the Monstera ALBO, because I was like, I was successful with this one, I can do the same for the Monstera ALBO. Wrong. But yeah, but anyways, those are my best plant propagations, aka my greatest hits when it comes to propagating plants. And I'm thinking of doing a series of propagation related videos this month, maybe up until March, since people typically start propagating their plants 4 to 6 weeks before the growing season starts, so which is right about this period. If you have any other ideas or any propagation related videos that you want me to make, let me know down in the description. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new here, please do subscribe. I come up with videos every week, and if you haven't yet, check out these videos up here until my next one. But until then, I see you, I appreciate you, take care of yourself and each other, and have a plentiful day. Bye.